Now LinkedIn is telling me I'm not approved because I rescheduled this on the wrong. I did it on the wrong thing. I didn't. Believe it or not, I'm going to have to redo this because I did the wrong LinkedIn for this. Let me just go back. I apologize. Bev, can you get her back on?
Can I get her back? Can you hear me?
Yes.
How am I getting her back?
By texting her or emailing her.
I'll email her. Same link.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay.
We are now live. Oh, wait. This is screwed up. Let me see. Facebook. Let me edit this thing.
Let me send it?
Yes, please.
Send.
Here she is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We are now live, and I'll edit out the beginning part of this. Can you hear, Bev?
I can hear fine now. Everything.
Okay. All right. We're gonna get started. So
great. And I will see you in the audience.
All right. Great. Thanks. Well, welcome everybody, and thanks for bearing with us. We had a few technology hiccups, but everything is good now. So again, welcome to Renewal at 50 Plus. And if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, just say who you are and where you're from. And I'm Wendy Marks, your host, and I am a personal branding and marketing coach for professionals who want to be more successful. And I'm delighted every month to have a special guest on Renewal at 50 Plus to help you live your best life and have your best career. And before I introduce today's special guest, I just want to talk a little bit about our topic for today, which is transitions and creating a game plan for a successful career transition. And wanted to just share a few statistics with you. One is that today, by age 50, the average person has gone through 12 career transitions. And in addition, the typical today, actually, about 70% of people at any one time are looking for a job. Now, it doesn't mean that 70% of people are unemployed. What it means is that there's a lot of unhappy people, unhappy with their careers. And the bottom line of all this is that transitions today are the new normal. Mm-hmm. And we're privileged, and I am privileged, to have as my special guest today, Beverly Jones, who's an expert in transitions and has practiced what she's preached during her illustrious career. She's been a corporate executive, a lawyer, a leader in a university, and today is an entrepreneur and executive coach. And Bev has a terrific podcast I urge you to check out called Jazzed at Work. She has a new book coming out very shortly, so you can pre-order it. It's expected out early September, called Happy at Work.
Find your happy at work.
Oh, find your happy at work.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And I'm just delighted, Bev, to have you. So welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm glad we were able to wait out those technical problems, and it's going to be fun to have this conversation with you.
Yes, I agree. So, Bev, the way I thought we could start, you talk about something called the sugar grain process that I absolutely love. So maybe you could talk about it, how you came up with it, and how you use it in your transition work.
Sure. It's something that I think just a little aha moment that probably changed my life early on. I've always been interested in work. I think as a kid, somehow my parents basically said, if you want something, get a job. I mean, even as I was a little kid, I was babysitting younger kids and things like that. And I really got lucky when I was 13 and I got a job with the fashion office at LaSalle Department Store in Toledo, Ohio. It was so much fun working in the fashion office, and they paid me minimum wage, which was amazing. Running around collecting clothing and things for fashion shows and being in fashion shows. So that was very important to me. But when I was, I still think maybe 14 or so, I started worrying about my weight, which was not so common back in those days. But the problem was I wasn't one of those tall, wonderful models who could wear evening gowns. I was a little tiny person at that stage. And even at 14 and ultimately at 18, I could wear children's clothes. So I could be like a more mature person who could go on the runway. So I had to be tiny. Anyway, I was thinking about weight one day when I was sitting having tea after school. And my family were Brits, and having tea is what you did all the time. So I was sitting with my cup of tea, just like I am now. But in those days, as a kid, we put in like maybe 3 teaspoons of sugar. And so one day I was kind of thinking, I've got to lose weight because I can't gain any. And I was holding my spoon up and just looking at these sugar grains. And I thought, I can't drink tea without sugar, but what if I would just remove like a couple of grains? I bet I wouldn't notice the difference. And then if I did that every day, sooner or later, maybe I could drink tea without sugar and I'd never have any pain. So that's what I did. And it took me months and months, maybe a year, just removing a little bit of sugar every day. And I painlessly learned to create change. And it was something that shaped everything. And anytime I had a challenge, I thought, I can't clean up my room or learn this math or whatever it was. But if I just do a sugar grains worth, I can do it. And so later when I got into working with women back in the dark ages, even before Title IX, as we were trying to help women get into areas where they traditionally weren't welcome, like law, when I didn't have any expertise, I started as a college student myself. But I just kept telling myself, if I do sugar grains every day, and then I worked with the people who were sort of my clients then, and just said, if we just do sugar grains every day, we can create change. And wow, it worked. And so I kind of forgot about it for a while, but then when I started coaching again, it all came back to me, and I thought, you know what? this might work. And so I would kind of mention it, not in a big way, not in a long story like I'm telling you, but years later, clients would call back and say, could we just have an occasion and then do this gesture? I need some sugar grains. Help me work out a
Uh,
process. And so
of
what I learned is processes matter, and that's one of them.
Yeah, that is a terrific story, and I too find that taking baby steps, which in a way is your sugar grains,
Exactly the same.
yeah, is so helpful in change that you can't expect overnight to be totally different or things to be totally different. But if you just start taking a little step and that leads to the next, and gradually you're where you want to be. So
Yeah.
I love your analogy. That's terrific with the super grains. Bev, what I also love is that you have a process for transitions, because
Yeah.
I know even myself, having gone through a lot of transitions, I've muddled through it too often, not having that wonderful process that you have. So I thought maybe you could take us through a bit of that, starting with what you call your big list.
Yes, the big list. Yes.
Yes.
And first, the process is so important because if you can commit to it and even have some fun with it, you'll get through the difficult parts. And it's really, my process is a matter of identifying where you want to go and then creating a cadence, kind of a methodical cadence of activity. And getting where you want to go is often really daunting for people. So my idea of a big list is that you just start writing down the things you already know, even if you think you have no idea of what your next job is and this one just disappeared. You can make a list of what are the things that you really liked about your um, current or your most recent job or any other job. And then when you think about the things you don't like, do the reverse. What you didn't like is you worked alone all the time, on your big list is wants to work with people. Then also on your big list is think about your skills. Don't think of your jobs as kind of fixed, framed, um, integrated things. Every job is really a bundle of skill sets, a bundle of activities, a bundle of opportunities. And so if you deconstruct that a little bit and think, well, gee, there's a lot I hated about retail, but I love that interaction with people. Then interaction with people is a skill set that you were good at. You put that on the list. So the list can be um, things you aspire to, things you've enjoyed. Just put it down and make sure everything is framed in a positive way. If you hate the commute, what goes on your list is want to be X close to where I'm going to work, or I'm going to work remotely. So you have a list of positive things, and that will get you started. You commit to the list because now you have a vision. Sure, there are a lot of things you don't know, but the things on your list are important. So then the next stage is you have to turn the list into action, right? And there are a lot of ways to do it. Some people like spreadsheets, some people like plans in their journal. But one thing I do with clients sometimes, because it's a great way to visualize the whole thing, is I often start with a mind map. And let me see if you can see this. Uh, See that? A mind map is kind of like a wheel with a
Yeah, it's a little hard to see.
all right,
Maybe
well, I'll just explain it.
explain. Yeah.
So imagine a wheel with a hub and spokes out. The hub is the idea of what you're trying to um, envision. You're trying to create one picture of everything you're trying to do. So maybe it's job search is what you put in the hub to put your finger on exactly what you're trying, and then you create spokes. And one spoke might be networking. That's always on anybody's transition thing. And then that branch coming out from the hub will break into multiple branches. There might be one on LinkedIn. There might be one on start where you are, visit the people you know. There might be one get in touch with alum. But you create on one piece of paper, or if you want to do it with software, you can do that too. But you create in one place sort of a summary of all of your list. And the reason why having a chart is so good is visual stuff is easy to uh, glance at and be reminded of the whole picture. A rabbit hole that people get down is sometimes they look at the things they need to be doing and they do the ones they like the best. And so part of the process is to keep the whole range of activities in mind. And the activities, of course, come from searching for the things on your individual list. So the list often um, includes, say, if you know you want a job that's remote, maybe what you start doing is um, you have a branch that says search for remote work, and you go to websites and you talk to people, and whatever it is, that's your branch. Does that make sense?
It does. I just had one question, Bev. Do you suggest with these different branches prioritizing any of them? So you're going to have these different areas to work on, but how do you know what to do first?
Well, one of the reasons I like something like a mind map is that you don't want to over prioritize. I find that when people say this is the most important thing, they often do it to the exclusion of the things they like to do less and that they're putting off. And the whole trick is to kind of force yourself to do the whole range of things. Now, of course, you're going to exercise judgment. So, what you may want to do is weight it. Everything's important, but maybe what you're going to do is spend 2 hours on building a skill. Upskilling may be a key to what you're doing. So 2 hours a day to that. And you may only spend 15 minutes networking, but that doesn't mean that upskilling is more important. Everything's important, but so assigning time maybe is the concept I'd use rather than prioritizing. It's like brushing your teeth is important as well as nutrition, but you don't want to have to choose between them. You have to do both.
Oh, excellent. I love that analogy. Thank you for
And
that.
so then when you have your picture, you know the kind of things you're going to be doing and you have a sense of how you're going to weight them. Then we get back to the sugar grains. What is so daunting at this point is everything seems overwhelming and you just can't begin. So for each of those main branches, um, make give yourself a month or a short period of time because you want to keep it small and identify some small things you want to do. Say networking is your thing. Maybe your sugar grain is that you're going to spend 5 minutes on LinkedIn every day, or you're going to reach out to one of your professional contacts 3 times a week. Whatever it is, keep it small enough so that it's comfortable. Do it for a defined time, and then you're going to say a month or 2 weeks or a week, but a defined time so that you keep up the cadence. And at the end of that period, you think that that worked or did that not work, and you set a new goal so that you don't want like this endless goals because anything is boring in the middle and you lose. That's when you kind of lose things. So the process is identifying the things you want to do to get toward your vision, but breaking it into a small series of phases, each of which has its sugar grains.
Yeah, I like that very much. Do you see this mind map evolving at all as you're going through this process, as you discover some new things about yourself?
Yes, and I think it varies with people. I am surprised at how much it tends not to evolve. With a
Hmm.
lot of people, um, I we do it. We've done it like in 15 minutes. I find doing fast is smart, and it holds up for a long time. And then maybe they work on it a little bit, but it is amazing how often that initial effort. If you do it fast, you don't try to polish it, make it beautiful. You don't try to worry about what words you're choosing. It's amazing how much you can capture that first time. But every time you've kind of been through a process for a month or two, think about it. And sometimes you want to add more branches, you get new ideas, but seldom you have to start over.
Start over, meaning
You
redoing your
seldom
whole.
you have to have a whole new map. I find
Yeah.
that they often evolve. Some people like to tweak them pretty frequently, and for them, sometimes software. I mean, there's free software like FreeMind on Wikipedia. You can just download it for free. And so people who like to kind of play with their maps sometimes prefer to do it that way.
Mhm, mhm. And what do you find, Bev? You're talking about all these really great things to do. What do you find, or where do you find that people get off the track when they're doing a transition? What is typically a big challenge, and what is your solution for that?
Well, one of the challenges is that people be, become overcome by their own anxiety, their own worry, their own exhaustion if they're working on a job now and trying to do the transition. So on the map, on the things you're managing as part of your transition, I always look at things that are like fitness and wellness, and working on things that help you keep a positive framework, including taking breaks. I think all of the things that will make you the happy, positive person most likely to to flourish in your next phase, they need to be on the map too. So it's not just a job chart, it is a way of looking at all the things that you need to do. So your own attitude, your own fitness, emotional, spiritual, physical, those are things that kind of hold people back sometimes, and because they stop taking care of themselves. And the
I
other thing again is people just don't do the things they don't like doing.
I
That's
love
always
that you include that mental and physical health as
Mhm.
part of this mind map, because that mindset that you have is so key, I think, for being able to do the other things that are part of that mind map.
Yeah, and so in my new book on Find Your Happy at Work, one of the things that I talk about is kind of modern research suggests that people who are more positive, people who are happy, are more likely to be productive. They have better at relationships. They're more creative. They're more likely to make connections, both in terms of relationships and in ideas. So being positive, being happy at work, leads to job success. And we used to think that you work really hard and then one day you're successful and that'll make you happy. There is a loop there, but the loop starts with being positive and having a mindset toward growth and optimism. And you can choose to have those, and you can work on those.
Yes, that's very interesting, and it does stand to reason that you can't just expect to do things necessarily and get that mindset, but you need to start with that optimistic attitude, and that in turn will give you the momentum to go on and
Exactly.
take those steps that you
Yeah.
need to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's very key. I know, Bev, in your own life, you've made a number of successful transitions. What have you found has helped you make those transitions for yourself?
Well, and a couple of times desperation was a big motivator because I really was faced with the need to go forward. But in terms of sticking with it, I have found that, I think I'm a born worrier, I'm a planner, I'm a pessimist, and I had to learn to choose optimism. I had to, early on, I noticed that voice in my head. If you don't study, you're going to fail. If you don't do this, you're not going to get the job. And I used that to kind of whip myself into activities. But
Mm,
I eventually noticed that way I kind of got myself through school, for example, had some utility, but it doesn't have utility in real life. Um, what I had to do is when I'd hear that voice saying things like, "Oh, you'll never get a job if you don't do this," I had to learn to talk back to that gremlin voice in my head and say, I know how to create change. I've done it before and I can do it again. So a critical thing for me early on, not quite as far back as the sugar grain years, but almost as far back, was to learn to not listen to my own negative internal voice and choose the way I wanted to talk to and about myself.
And how do you turn off that negative voice? Because sometimes that negative voice is so loud. How do you modulate it?
Well, back when we were very young, um, mindfulness and meditation were thousands and thousands of years old, but most of us hadn't heard about it. Now there's so many ways to have a mindfulness practice. I I just have do focus on my breath for a minute. That's enough to help the voice. But there's so many different ways to explore meditation, mindfulness. That's one thing. Another thing that's really, I think, a very good way to address these things is to write about them. There's a lot of research about journaling, about pain and anxiety and things like that, and people who journal about the challenges they're facing, including maybe pain after surgery. There's research suggesting that if you write about your symptoms and so forth, you get better faster. You heal faster than the people who don't. So I find that journaling works for a lot of people as well.
Yes, I find that it also centers you when you're journaling. It gives you, and meditation does too, it lets you know what you want to focus on in your life, what's bothering you. Sometimes you don't even realize, at least I found that's the case, till I write something down.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that something was upsetting me that much.
That's right. Sometimes you don't know what's on your mind until you tell somebody else, but there's a lot you don't want to talk about. But if you write it in your journal, then you think, oh, that's the issue.
Yeah. This has been such a great conversation, Bev. I see now that we do have a question. Let me see. It's a practical way to find that optimistic perspective to make things happen when you're very unhappy in your current job.
Well, let me give you a couple of things. One is focus on the people. To focus on the people who might be impacted by what you're going to do, focus on the people who need your help. A really effective thing is to look around to see somebody who could use a kindness. If you're kind to somebody else, it has an amazing impact on your own unhappiness. So one thing is focus on the people, look for ways to connect, to reach out, and to be kind. Another thing is to kind of think about your mission. It may be that you don't like your job, but you're working for a really fine organization, and so you talk to yourself about, or you write in your journal about how important the mission is. Or sometimes, maybe you're just an Uber driver who's doing it simply for the money. Then the mission is, I'm putting myself through school, I'm raising my child, whatever it is. If you focus on the mission and you congratulate yourself for moving toward the mission, that's another way to take some of the negativity out. And then a kind of a third part of this triangle is of ways to kind of feel more positive is to focus on the quality of your work. If you take pride in what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you're washing dishes or writing law briefs. Having standards for yourself, living up to your standards, congratulating yourself. There is a lot to be said for committing yourself to a high level of achievement in whatever it is you're doing, and then congratulating and allowing yourself to be proud of it. So kind of the work itself, the mission, and people connections are all things you can focus on that might help you.
Those are great thoughts, Bev. And I especially like the idea about your saying about being kind, because oftentimes when you're miserable, you're so focused on yourself that in order to reach out and start saying, how can I help somebody else? It takes that intense focus off yourself.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
that's something to keep in mind in the context of networking, which is so important for any transition. Is uh, a lot of us, most of us, I think, feel awkward at going into a room where we don't know anybody, or a virtual room, or connecting with people we're not in touch with. But if you go into any situation with the idea of, like, go to a party, you look around and see who doesn't seem to be talking to anyone, and you have kindness be your guide. And instead of thinking, who wants to talk to me, who is important that I should talk to, you just look around for somebody who feels lonely. And if kindness is your guide in any kind of networking situation, it can transform your interactions.
I love that, Bev. That is a beautiful sentiment, and it's true wherever you are.
Mhm.
And just going to a party as well as going to a networking
Yeah.
function. Yeah, yeah, very, very true. We have another question. Let me see what it is. Where does networking come into the mix to make a transition? And what's more important, your mindset or the help of other people in terms of networking?
I think, it's hard to separate them, because your mindset will help you seek and accept and make use of um, the help of other people. I'd say it's like they're both important, and what is more important in the moment kind of depends on the situation. But networking is it's about building relationships, and human beings have evolved to thrive when they're working with other people. If you look at sort of evolutionary theory and go back to our ancestors who were hunter and gatherers, if they were by themselves, if they were cut off from the community, they didn't survive. So the people who survived in ancient days were the people who were able to work together, and the skills, the emotions, the awareness that allow you to work together is it's sort of fundamental to success. So back to networking, the first thing to think is that it's all about relationship building. It's not some arbitrary outreach thing. And then the research suggests that if you look at how people are hired, and maybe 70 to 80% studies show there's been some kind of human intervention. Even if there's a job site, even if there's an online search, the people who are able to connect with somebody who works there or get some information, anytime there's a human connection, it's more important. So just having a kind of a thriving, diverse circle of people with whom you're connected, even lightly, like you and I have met online. I feel like you're my friend now. I feel like I could reach out to you. Um, and you're just mentioned my book, and I'm mentioning what you're doing. I mean, that's how it works. Networking can be kind of staying in touch with the people you went to school with and that are closest to you. And networking can be always looking out for people. And if somebody asks, hey, would you like to be on my show? Or anything like that. Networking can be just being alert to opportunities to connect at any kind of level.
Yes, so true. And what I also find, and I'm sure you do too, Bev, is that it's so important to keep in touch with people in your network. You don't want it to go cold. And I recently had this experience that I reached out to somebody, and he was so appreciative. We haven't talked for a bit, but so appreciative of our reconnecting. And he's looking for ways to help me with my business and vice versa. So it was just a very heartening conversation to do that. And it made me realize that I ought to be doing this more often with more people in my network, because you forget about these people.
Yeah.
We're so busy collecting these names, but then we don't have those necessary conversations all the time.
That's so smart, Wendy. I think that networking isn't just about collecting new names, meeting new people. It's about nurturing every relationship and every level of relationship that you have. It's not only getting in touch with, but staying in touch with people, and it's really about just remembering that we're all intertwined, and um, staying in touch with the people, your best friends, the people you're closest to, that counts as networking. It's all part of the process.
Yes, very true. And you also just never know how or when somebody might be able to help you or you could help them. I recently had a call with somebody and I was actually going, what am I even bothering to talk to this person for? And the next thing I know, she's inviting me to be a guest on a show that she's doing. And it was and she had some good ideas for me. And it was an excellent conversation. So you just never know what somebody is going to say, which is why you need to keep yourself open to these connections.
In working with clients, I've started a number of times with people who are kind of down and discouraged and have become sort of isolated because they're sort of exhausted from the process or any number of reasons. And in that case, I try to find painless, rewarding ways to network, as well as, look online for this and that, but just trying to get people to interact. And I can't tell you how many times somebody said the weirdest thing. I was at the gym and we had grabbed a coffee with somebody because you told me to talk to people. And so I invited out this woman in my yoga class. This is a true example I'm giving. And we started chatting and I told her about my job search. And she said, well, my husband's company, I think, is looking for somebody like that. And she got an offer within 10 days of that yoga class. And when she came to me, she had been looking for a job more than a year. But the more she looked, the less she really got out. And just getting out and finding people can be transformative. And very often the opportunities come through somebody you talked to at church or somebody who, an old college friend you got in touch with. So it's not always what seems like the most likely way. It's just connecting with people brings surprising results.
Oh, that's a fantastic story, Bev. And I think our time is drawing to a close, and you've been a fantastic guest. And I'm so glad that you and I have connected. Yes. This is really fantastic. And I just want to remind people to be sure to check out Bev's new forthcoming book, Find Your Happy at Work. And you can pre-order it on Amazon. And I am also offering a special storytelling sheet to tell a better career story. So feel free, and please do so, to email me at Wendy, W-E-N-D-Y, and I'll put this in the chat also, at thriving@50+.com. So thank you so much for people listening now and those listening later. And always go forward, never stay stuck in place. Thank you for joining Renewal at 50+, and thank you, Bev.
Thank you, Wendy. It was great fun to be with you.
Yes, likewise. Bye now.
Okay.